Good afternoon. Education Committee is going to come to order, and thank you to everybody who's been waiting so patiently while we did our voting on the floor. We appreciate it. Hopefully other members will get in here as soon as possible. Anyway, this meeting is called to order, and we will approve the minutes if there's no objection to the minutes that were distributed from last week's meeting, or the week before's meeting, because we didn't meet last week. All right, well, I want to welcome today, there's some young people here that are participating in our AP program in our high schools. Would you stand up, everybody that's here participating in that? Wow, great. This is a great program. These kids are taking these AP classes and knocking it out the park, I'm sure. And is the College Board, they wanted to, Alexandra, did you want to say, I'll give you 1 minute, just to say really quickly about all these young people and what they're doing. And then we're going to have our spotlight and go from there.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. I wasn't expecting to speak, but I'll just be brief. So as Senator Allen mentioned, we have our first ever AP Day at the Capitol. At one point, we had 50 plus students here at the Capitol, but of course it's dwindled down as the day has gone on. But we have 20 strong from Maricopa High School here, just advocating for access to AP opportunities for students, funding for AP, and just learning about the legislative process and meeting you all. So thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you, young people, for coming and seeing how your government works. And hopefully we can increase that funding to keep AP testing going. All right, we have a treat today, our spotlight on school success. Eric Godfrey from the Buckeye Union High School District Superintendent is going to talk about the Buckeye Special Education Program. So I'm going to turn it over to you, sir, and let you tell us. I've heard so much about your program, and special education programs are near and dear to my heart. And we have, I can't remember my Senate bill. Geez, that's horrible. Just a minute. Everybody has to wait while I figure it out. 1060. Thank you. 1060. Yes, my Senate bill 1060 is hoping to increase some funding for special ed formulas. So, welcome, and we're happy to have you here today.
Thank you. Chairman Allen, Vice Chairman Boyer, and members of the Education Committee. My name is Eric Godfrey. I'm the Superintendent of Buckeye Junior High School District. Joining me today is Scott Acton, our Exceptional Student Services Director. We would like to thank you for the opportunity to spotlight the amazing work our staff does serving kids of our district. I'd like to begin by showing a news clip highlighting a couple of our district programs, and I was informed to say that this is not a marketing video. This was actually Channel 5 that came and did this, so anyhow, I want to make this
so
play
ignore
for us.
the commercials, everyone.
No, I think we got out to get rid of the commercials, but it's not our marketing stuff, so we'd like to start with this.
Buckeye Union High School, home of the Hawks, is creating a quality education, one student at a time.
All kids deserve an education. All kids deserve that experience.
And when Superintendent Eric Godfrey says all kids, he's not kidding.
All kids deserve to have a chance. And programs like this give all kids a chance to be successful.
This is our TSW coffee crew.
Meet student DeAndre Thomas.
We sell a lot of things. We actually make the food.
And the coffee crew of TSW. That's short for Transition from School to Work program. On the outside, it may look like any other program, but it's not. TSW has a coffee cart, a store on campus, and even a car wash.
Hey, get that spot right too.
You'd never know by looking at these students, but all of them are living with special needs, gaining important lessons they'll take with them long after they graduate. But it's not just Buckeye Union High School. About 10 miles away, just off the interstate, sits a one-of-a-kind education facility.
We are 75% special education on this campus, with 190 students here every day.
This is the Buckeye Union Learning Center.
You're probably not going to find this in the state. I would venture to say it might be hard to find someplace like this in the country.
Principal Karen Sanders has been at the school since the beginning, nearly a decade ago.
If you can't take care of a student, if a student can't be successful on a traditional campus, you have to have a place for them. You don't have a choice. That's your responsibility.
The programs at the campus are so good, more than a dozen other schools send their students to the Learning Center. But these unique programs come at a cost.
I see it's challenging. The space over at the Learning Center right now, we're pretty full because of the needs of the community.
There are talks of adding on to the building once again, but at the same time, Buckeye, like many other Arizona schools, has to keep a close eye on the bottom dollar.
Those are challenges that we face, that the legislature faces, that everyone faces.
But the district is already prepared for major challenges as the West Valley continues to rapidly grow.
There's going to have to be some hard decisions and some really close looks into how we fund schools.
Whatever the case may be moving forward, the programs at Buckeye Union High School and the Buckeye Learning Center make a huge impact on some of the most vulnerable students in the community.
They make him feel good here. They make him feel like he's important.
Nick Valdez sent his high schooler Dawson to the Learning Center.
Dawson Valdez, awesome Dawson. It does make you feel good. Me and my wife both, that we see a change in him. We see a change in his attitude at home. I think he's going to be all right. He's going to be all right. He's going to make it.
It's the same comments other parents with kids in the Learning Center told Arizona's Family, including Fred Edwards, who has 2 children at the school.
It's helped out greatly, I want to say, because of the fact I had one of my kids that was here had some of the most extreme behaviors. You know, he was the face of just a hardcore team, and they didn't give up on him.
Whatever the future may hold for these unique programs, district leaders continue to move forward.
The kids. I love the kids. They're my smile.
2 programs making a huge difference for families in the West Valley.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, so Buckeye Union High School District is committing to providing a continuum of services to meet the needs of all the students that attend our district. We currently provide inclusion special education services as well as resource special education services for students at all of our campuses. Specialized programs are offered at our comprehensive campuses include at Buckeye Union High School, our Life Skills program, and our Transition School to Work program. At Yonker High School, we have our Level D social communication program. And then as you saw in the video, Buckeye Union High School District also provides an alternative educational environment at the Learning Center where we deliver double-digit exceptional needs and alternative programs to not only BUHSD students, but students of 11 other school districts, including 2 charter schools. Our district contracts with 2 private day school providers, Excel and Desert Choice Schools, who provide services at our Learning Center. These partners provide Level D services for students with significant educational needs. From the inception of bringing these program offerings to the Learning Center, instead of outsourcing these students, our district's cost avoidance is approaching $6 million. We currently have 595 ESS students, which represents a 12% growth rate, which outpaces our district's overall growth of 6%. Our elementary school partner districts are also experiencing significant growth with this population. They've advised us that in the next few years will result in a significant increase in these students arriving in our district beginning in 2021-22.
In closing to this, our district, which will celebrate its centennial next year, is 1,200 square miles and provides educational services to the city of Buckeye and Goodyear. Our partner districts have 16 K-8 elementary schools with 3 new schools approved and targeted to open in the next 3 years. Even more of a growth indicator is that our freshman class of over 1,200 students district-wide is represented by 92 different elementary schools in the state, and if you add the students that are coming to us from out of state, the number is well over 100. The city of Buckeye has been recognized as the fastest growing city in the United States by percentage, and their current growth rate surpasses last year's figures. Although this growth is exciting, it does present challenges. This school year alone, to meet the demands of our exceptional students, in addition to the increased regular education staffing needs, our district hired an additional registered nurse, 1.5 full-time equivalents in teaching sections, and 6 instructional paraprofessionals. For next school year, we will be adding a specialized program at Estrella Foothills campus, adding additional FTEs that are being determined right now in our planning process for next year, and hiring an additional teacher for our life skills program. In closing, we'd like to thank you for your service to Arizona and to the students of our state. We would also like to endorse measures that will positively affect the quality of education in our state. We welcome any comments or questions, and again, thank you for allowing us to present today.
Thank you. Really appreciate you coming and seeing what you're doing out there. It's wonderful. And, you know, I want to come out and visit your learning center. And I will have Mark nag me till we get out there. But it'll probably have to be when session's over. But I hope that I can come out and visit, because I've just heard so many good things about it. And it just excites me when I see that we can make this kind of progress with these special kids, that we really can give them the confidence and programs that they need to succeed. So thank you for the work that you're doing. It really means a lot. And we know that we've got to keep working on the funding, and we'll keep doing that. Okay, Senator Borelli, did you want to talk?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And Superintendent, whoever did the audio-visual did an outstanding job. Unfortunately, the video makes you look shorter, so.
Short joke, huh?
Different angle.
That's the only one that we can do? I've been hearing those my whole life, so we're okay.
Sonny's right there with you.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Senator Borelli. All right. Any other questions, members? Again, thank you for coming and waiting for us to get through with floor so we could see this wonderful presentation.
Anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty, members, we're going to get right into hearing our bills, and we're going to hear Bill 2682 first, and then House Bill 2448 second. And then we'll go down the list: 2109, 2110, 2111, 2121, and 2287. All right, Miriam, thank you.
Madam Chair and members, House Bill 2682 directs the State Board of Education to include in the course of study and competency requirements that pupils at least twice between grades 7 and 12 be taught about the Holocaust and other genocides. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Miriam? Thank you. All right, our sponsor of this bill is, oh, there she's here. Thank you very much, Representative, for coming over today.
Yes. So hello, members of the committee, Madam Chairwoman. I want to first and foremost start by thanking all of you for signing on as co-sponsors to the bill. It was a really great bill and a really great success that we had so many sponsors. It passed unanimously out of the House Ed Committee as well as the floor. So I just want to start off by thanking all of you. This bill is really simple. It's just making sure that we're educating the members of our community, especially the children, on Holocaust education. With the rise of anti-Semitism and everything that we're seeing, not only now, but over the years, it's important and imperative that we're teaching the children about the Holocaust so it never happens again. I do have 2 Holocaust survivors here with me today who came to testify on behalf of the bill, and I want to give them an opportunity to do so. So I will leave it at that with my statement, unless you have any questions.
Any questions for the sponsor? And thank you for bringing we feel honored to have them here today. Yes. So you may introduce them and whichever you'd like to come up first.
So I'm going to have Dr. White go first.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. White, we're happy to have you here today.
Thank you.
Just state your name for the record, please.
Good afternoon. I hope you understand my tremulous voice. At 97, I can be forgiven for that.
You can be, sir.
I am a retired physician from the Chicago area, where I practiced, starting out myself, to a 14 associate practice. I taught at the medical school for a number of years. I am myself a veteran of the Korean War. Our daughter is a veteran of the Gulf War. She was a naval officer. And I am here to plead for the passage of the legislation that you are about to consider, which I found very important when I speak to thousands of veterans, students, churches, and other organizations. For the last 40 years. I am a survivor at Schindler's camp. And when the teacher finds out that I'm going to speak, they usually respond, "Oh, how cool." Well, it wasn't very cool, but I love to speak to young people and to old about my experience during World War II and the horrible Holocaust that I experienced and lost my entire family and 90% of close members of my family. And this should not happen again. And of course, we have a constitution that founders of this nation toiled to differentiate this country from the European countries and so on. And it's now lasted for hundreds of years and has been extremely successful, a model for all other countries. But a constitution is only a piece of paper or a piece of parchment on which it is written. And a Hitler and a Stalin just take this and tear it up and throw it in the garbage and rule by decree. Now, when I speak to young people as well as older people, I try to avoid describing the killings and the murder that I had experienced. All I want to do is convey the message from the experience of the Holocaust and my own personal experience during that period of time. I try to convey just three messages. Number one is indifference, because one wonders, how is it possible that such an educated society, the German society, would allow themselves to be ruled by a murderous dictator? Well, indifference. Indifference what he was doing in the 30s, as long as they were not the target themselves. The second message is, when I was in the concentration camp of Krakow, my father was the only survivor of the family with me there. And during what the prisoners referred to as the naked parade, where we had to undress naked and march by rapidly an SS physician who decided who is to live and who is to die. And my dad was to go to Auschwitz, and I was to stay in the camp. And my dad turned to me and he said, he had a little piece of bread in his pocket. And he turned to me and he said, "Look, you take it. I don't need it anymore. And I don't care to live anymore. I lost everything. I lost my family. You take it. But promise me one thing. I pray to God that you survive. And if you do, please promise me to be a mensch. That means be a decent human being, tolerant, kind, charitable, and so on." And that's what I tried to be, and that's what I try to instill into the young people of this nation. Now, the third message, in other words, don't harass other kids, don't join some fringe radical organizations like skinheads and so on, and be a decent human being, be a good citizen. The last one is, when I was liberated May 8th, 1945, I was there by myself in Sudetenland, which was then Germany, a foreign country, with nothing. All I had was my striped outfit. No money, no relatives, no family. Now, to be a mensch means make something out of yourself. You survived, you do that. I received my IKEA package, but I could eat bread with wood shavings in it. I didn't need the salami, I didn't need the coffee, I didn't need the cigarettes because I didn't smoke. So I sold it on the black market. And I studied and I graduated. And I came here to the United States. I served in the US Army for 2 years. And as I mentioned, my daughter served in the Navy, and I'm extremely thankful to this nation for what they had done for me. Now, I would like to plead with you to approve that legislation because it's extremely heartwarming when you see the response of young students after I speak to them. It makes me feel like having gotten up in the middle of the night to a young individual in the intensive care unit in coma, and the patient comes out of coma, or a rhythm disturbance, and the patient survives. That's how I feel when I speak to the young people. So it is therapeutic for me, and it is very good and very well received by the young people. So thank you for allowing me to address you on this subject, and God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Dr. White, just want you to know.
Oh, now I'm a little deaf, so that's good. Yeah.
You're a marvelous 97-year-old. I'm impressed. And thank you so much for coming and sharing your story. It's really touched my heart. Thank you so much.
Thank
God
you for
bless
listening.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, and next I'm going to have Oskar Knoblauch, who's here.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir. We're so
Welcome.
happy to have you here.
My name is Oskar Knoblauch. I'm a Holocaust survivor. And at 94, I'm a youngster compared to Dr. White. I too go to schools. In fact, I did last year's school year and finished with 97 schools, 240 presentations. And I learned that students in schools in Arizona are hungry for more education on the Holocaust and World War II. They seem to be trying to absorb it like a sponge. No matter how much I can tell them, they want more. You can speak to them for 50 minutes, an hour, 90 minutes, still not enough. Yesterday I spent 7 hours in one school, 7 hours, from 9 to 4, answering questions only, just questions. Unbelievable. Why and how did the Holocaust start? How do you explain that in just a few sentences? It takes more. Yes, it starts with hate. That's why I wear this t-shirt. Anything like this crazy stuff about the Holocaust starts with hate. Hate one person, hate some people. And they are scared. The next question is, can it happen here? Yes, it can. What can we do? How come nothing is being done? I mean, after all, they say to me, there's genocide going on all over the world, in different countries. How come people in governments don't do anything? Why don't they stop it? And that is very difficult for me to answer. Very difficult. Why don't we do anything? Yes, we can. But we have to start with students as young as possible. Would you believe, or would that surprise you, that I go to schools in Scottsdale and I speak to fourth graders? Fourth graders. Yes, I have a PowerPoint presentation. I don't show them the ugly stuff. It isn't necessary. What is necessary is to get along, not to be bullied. That is going on in schools as well. So I concentrate on that. And it should be taught in schools. It should be, because they are the future. They're the future of this country. They're the future of this world. All those youngsters. So that bill is important. It should get through. The sooner the better. The teachers are willing, not all of them, but most of them are very willing to teach the Holocaust. And they do a wonderful job, but not enough. So please don't hesitate. Try to go ahead and let it go through. I thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, as I said, it's an honor for us to have you here today and to bring these lifelong lessons to us. And you know, it starts with each one of us and how we treat each other and the civility in the way we treat each other and learning to love one another and to be patient and long-suffering, right? So thank you, and I'm so thrilled to hear that you're going to the schools and talking to the kids, because I can see why they just eat up every word you say. I wanted you to keep talking too, so thank you so much.
I'll
both
do it
of
as
you.
long as I can.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Hernandez. Would you like the last little say about your bill?
Yeah, so that concludes the testimony on behalf of the bill. I'm sure you've probably seen we've had a lot of survivors here in the last month who have been advocating on behalf of the bill, the members of the Jewish community and members from the outside of the Jewish community as well that are supportive. So again, I just want to thank everyone. It took a lot of work to be able to get this going. And I want to thank those who participated and were a part of it. But I also want to thank you all again for being willing to listen to the bill and sponsor it, because it is something that's very critical, not only for the children, for the entire state and world. So thank you.
And thank you for sponsoring it and for putting it together and doing the work on it. Really appreciate it. So thank you so much. All right, members, if there isn't any further discussion on this bill, let's go ahead and vote. Thank you. There's no amendments, so we'll just move the bill.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that House Bill 2682 receive a due pass recommendation.
You have to get used to House bills now, not Senate bills. All right, we've heard that motion. Let's call for the vote.
Madam Chair, will I explain my vote?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to you gentlemen, ma'am. Shalom. First off, I too am a veteran, and I'm sure my dad and you served, probably chewed the same mud in Korea. Thank you for your service, and I thank God that you're here to tell your story and to continue to tell that story. This is extremely important, and it does need to be reminded in schools. It's not being taught enough. And it's really even a shame that we, yesterday in a government committee, and I really wish you could attend a government committee next Monday, because a bill failed that would have, to commemorate and remembering the victims of communism. Unfortunately, it failed in the Senate committee, and we're going to bring it back next week. So I'd really appreciate it, Representative Hernandez, if you could actually have some speakers there, because this crosses a lot of lines, and communism is also hate, and we could really use your support. I served 22 years in the Marine Corps. I met very many survivors while I was in the Corps, and I've seen what fascism and communism has done to countries and to people. The bottom line, it's people, and government does this to people. This needs to be remembered, cannot ever be forgotten ever again, ever to be repeated. I vote aye.
Madam Chair, may I explain my vote?
Please.
I think that the world needs a lot more mentors to do good stuff. So I don't know if he can hear me, but Alma, make sure Representative Hernandez, make sure you tell him I said that. And with that, I vote aye.
Madam Chair, I'd like to explain my vote.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Happy to have my seatmate here and sponsoring and co-sponsoring of the bill. Happy for I to co-sponsor the bill. I think it's very important. Thank you for your testimony, Doctor. I think it's very important. I'm really glad that the bill also will, allow for the continuation of teaching of other genocides that have happened. As an indigenous woman, our people have also suffered genocide here in the U.S. The colonization of the Americas in itself has been called genocidal, because it was trying to kill off our people, the indigenous peoples of the Americas, and not only we're also kind of survivors of genocide ourselves, and the indigenous people that still are here, it also imposed cultural genocide as well. And so, I'm happy to vote yes on this bill. But with coming from the background that I do, I'm a former classroom teacher, I really would like for all of us to get rid of the word and stop using the word tolerance. Because you know what I tolerate? The only thing I tolerate in my life are my grandkids' stinky feet. But people and their faith and what they believe in and who they are, I appreciate and I accept, even if they're different than I am. And so we as a world need to stop talking about tolerating people. We need to accept people, we need to respect people, and we need to love people. Thank you, and I vote aye.
Aye.
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank Representative Hernandez and the speakers you brought here today to come speak to us about this very important issue. I really want to echo Senator Gonzalez's points. I think she was very eloquent in what she stated just now, and I am also very pleased that the language in the bill allows for the discussion of other genocides in addition to the Holocaust. That's critically important because, and as one of the gentlemen spoke, he said that his students were very anxious to hear about these issues, that kids want to learn about this. And I agree. I think that our kids are very hungry to learn about this, and the only way that we can learn about how to be the best in humanity is to learn about the worst of humanity. And I think that, these are very excellent examples of the worst of humanity, and if we can teach our kids how those situations occurred, how they started, how they were perpetuated, and how people like us allowed it to happen right in front of our eyes, then we can prevent that from happening again. And the only unfortunate thing about these issues is that no two genocides, no two acts of discrimination are ever exactly the same. If there ever were going to be another genocide, unfortunately there have been many, but if there ever were going to be another one, it wouldn't be exactly like the one before it. But the only way to prevent those next ones is to know exactly how each of the ones before us took place and how they happened. And I think this is an important way for us to accomplish that goal. So I want to thank you for doing that, and I vote aye.
Madam Chair, may I explain my vote?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. I wanted to say Toda Rabah to those who came here to testify on behalf of this bill. Thank you to the sponsor. My love for Israel is actually the reason why I got involved in politics. I didn't care about politics, and then in 2002 there was a suicide bombing, the Seder bombing, the Passover bombing. Many of you know about that. My grandfather, I've never been prouder of anybody than my grandpa. He fought in World War II, and he was part of the 601st, part of the 3rd Infantry, and helped to liberate many of these concentration camps. And my wife and I named our son after him. And so this is just a huge honor to even be able to vote for this. I vote aye.
Thank you, members, for your vote so far, and thank you again, Representative, and thank you, gentlemen, for coming today and sharing your stories. Really appreciate it. And I do hope we can have a new world coming for us where we can really experience a true peace and love across the world. I mean, there's genocides going on in the world today, right now. There are Christians who are being annihilated. There are different races in Africa. There's still wars going on where there are political wars, and it would really be wonderful if we could realize a world where we could be accepting of each other and not have this kind of hate. So this is a nice beginning. I think it's a great bill, and I vote aye. By your votes, would you say that again? I didn't write it down. 8 ayes, 0 nays, and 2 not voting. 1 not voting, okay. And 1 not voting. You've given House Bill 2682 a do pass recommendation. Thank you, members. Let's move now to House Bill 2448. Miriam.
Madam Chair and members, House Bill 2448 establishes procedures for a public school to become a school of innovation. The bill requires a school to submit an innovation plan to the Superintendent of Public Instruction and directs the State Board of Education to prescribe requirements for the plan. The Arizona Department of Education must develop an evaluation plan for a school of innovation and submit an annual report about innovation schools to outline entities. A school of innovation may request exemptions from prescribed instructional hour requirements and any rules or policies that hinder fully implementing the school's innovation plan. SBE must approve or reject a school's plan within 60 days after receiving it. Lastly, the bill prohibits a school from penalizing a student who transfers out of a school of innovation to another Arizona school by requiring a student to repeat coursework and changing any grade a student received. Madam Chair, there is one amendment to this bill that I'd be happy to explain.
Please proceed.
Okay. The amendment dated March 2nd, 2020 at 2:57 p.m. in Senator Pace's name requires innovation plans be submitted to the Superintendent of Public Instruction by April 15th of each year, unless SBE has approved the school's innovation plan for an initial 5-year period. The amendment removes the specific resources and supports a school will receive from the governing board or body in implementing an innovation plan. Lastly, the amendment prohibits a school applying to become a school of innovation from requesting a reduction in the total number of instructional hours prescribed for a school year. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Members, any questions? Senator D'Alessandro.
Thank you very much, Senator. Is there any appropriation?
Madam Chair, Senator D'Alessandro, there are no appropriations to my knowledge.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sponsors here. Welcome, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thanks for having me today. Henry Ford has been attributed to have said something along the lines of...
Representative Udall, could you give us your name for the record?
Representative Udall, sorry, LD25. Henry Ford's attributed to having said something along the lines of, if I had asked people what they had wanted, we would have been working on faster horses. In our school system today, with all of the rules and regulations that we have, we're trying to make faster and faster horses, but it's time to start working on cars. And so this bill is basically an open invitation to say, if you want to do something new that has some evidence behind it that it's successful, that will be successful, that really is going to help our students meet the needs that they have, then go for it. We're going to give you that invitation, that opportunity to innovate, to mix up your schedule, to do things differently than you've done in the past. We're going to keep the same accountability requirements. You're not waived from accountability, but if you have a new idea that you'd like to proceed with and something in our policy is getting in the way, whether policy, rule, or seat time statute, then we're going to allow you to innovate and do something new. That is the way that we can move forward and really move the needle on changing from the model that has been around forever that was really made for factory workers and to produce factory workers to a model that is made for today's economy and for today's students. And so that is the point of the bill, is to make sure that schools can innovate without being dinged for it, that they can move forward and make those plans. They will submit their plans to ADE. The plans will be approved by the state board, and then they'll be able to move forward. The appropriations question, the only appropriations we've been asked for in response to this is the ADE is asking for 1 FTE to look over the plans, and we're talking to them about that and seeing, and that's more of a budget issue thing, so we're looking at putting that in the budget for them and advocating for that in the budget.
Representative Udall, I really like this bill, and I agree that we want to allow the schools to be as creative and innovative and ideas, think outside the box, whatever they want to do, because I really think we do need to change this 100-year-old system, or however long we've been educating just how we're doing in this box, you know. And I think this is what we're looking for, and I think it'll be exciting for the districts and the schools to think, oh wow, maybe we've got an idea here that we really could make work. But if there's something that we're doing in Title 15 or, you know, in rules or whatever that is stopping that, yeah, let's look at it and let's change it. And I'm always for new ideas. It brings forth new energy, and that's what we need, and I love it, so thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Representative Udall? Yes, Senator Casada.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative, do we have an idea of how many schools you expect would apply for this in the next year?
So thank you, Madam Chair, or Senator Quesada. So we don't know how many will apply. We know of some that will, for sure, because they've been, as we introduced the bill, they came forward very quickly and said, we're interested, we want to do this. What we talked with the state board about is, as they establish policies, one of the things they're going to do is put out kind of a survey asking schools for some kind of a certificate of intent, say, so that they can figure out what the intent is, how many schools intend to apply, so that we can make sure that we're prepared for that many applications.
Senator Quesada.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Representative Udall, of the ones that you're aware of that are interested at this point, is most of their interest based on the instructional hours part of the, is that what's giving them the most problem, is the instructional hours?
Senator Allen. Yes, Senator Udall.
Senator Quesada. That is the one I hear a lot. But in other states where they've done this, it's not, that one has come up a lot, but there are several other things that have too. And the reason we leave it as open as it is, because again, we don't know what they need waived until we start the process. And a lot of times actually what they find out is they go to apply, and in other states this has happened a lot, they go to apply and find out that the things that they need waived are not actually in statute. They're not actually even in rule or policy. They're just the way that things have always been done, and they assumed that's the way they always had to be done. So a lot of times what they end up finding out is, we could have done this years ago. It's more that invitation to innovate that brings up these ideas.
And Madam
Senator
Chair,
Quesada.
Madam Chair, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's kind of where I'm coming from. I'm not sure that we need to kind of grant a lot of waivers that we're going to in this bill, if a lot of schools can already do this. They just don't realize it. I mean, isn't there a better way to maybe communicate with schools about what they can do and how they can be innovative, rather than creating a program possibly costing the department some money, and then granting some waivers of things that we probably shouldn't be granting waivers for?
Senator Allen and Senator Quesada. There are things that do need to be waived from time to time, though, and we don't want those to be barriers. And part of the program also is that if they request things that aren't going to be waived, especially other things in statute. Right now, the only thing we allow them to waive in statute is seat time, and the amendment makes it so that it can't be a reduction in the total number of instructional hours, so they can mess with their bell schedules more than they've been allowed to previously. And we have a district here that would like to address some of what they are trying to do and some of the things that they've run into. But there are some things that occasionally get in the way. When you go to districts and ask for a list of them, you're not getting much back, because they haven't gone through the steps of creating a new plan, because they think that there are all these barriers. By telling them, we want you to innovate, you're welcome to, they feel more free to make that plan and then to move forward with it. It's that invitation to innovate, really.
And to that point, if they're going to, if they don't need to have a waiver, it'll be found out in the process. So they'll find out what they don't know that they didn't know, right? So.
And Madam Chair,
I
that's
think
what
it'll be
they
fine.
found in a lot of states is as they're filling out the application, which the application is really great because it requires them to come up with a plan and really have a solid plan of what they're going to do and the support behind it. But as they're doing that, a lot of times they find out, we don't actually have to file this. We could do that already. And so in working with the department, a lot of times that's what they figure out, and then they don't have to file for the waiver.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the sponsor? Yes, Senator
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative, I'm always concerned about equity, and I'm just wondering if lower income schools with lower income students, if their school district or individual school would have the capability to do this.
Senator Allen, Senator D'Alessandro, we actually have our superintendent of Phoenix Union here to talk about what they're wanting to do, and they certainly have some low-income schools. So if you'd like to move to that, I'm happy to.
That'd be great. Let's do that. Who would you like to call up first?
Superintendent Chad Guzman.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee. My name is Chad Gueston, and I am very proud to serve as the superintendent of the Phoenix Union High School District.
Wonderful.
And I'm here today to speak in support of this bill. And want to share just a few of my thoughts, and then I'm happy to answer any particular questions. And I'll give some specifics of some areas in which we have had some roadblocks, and even some areas that we want to innovate that we think might fall nicely inside of this particular piece of legislation. So first of all, just background quickly on Phoenix Union, and I think, Senator, to your point, we serve most of the teenagers in Central Phoenix. It's a tough job. We have nearly 30,000 high schoolers that we serve here in Central Phoenix. Of our nearly 30,000 students, almost 90% of our kids live at or below the federal poverty line. So we are a district that largely serves students who are under-resourced and in communities that we think need more innovation and more support. So I think in many ways we could be one of the great examples that's really thinking about innovation differently. And Phoenix Union over the last several years has been trying to rethink what our schools look like. If you know or knew anything about Phoenix Union many years ago, we were 10 to 11 large high schools, and many of our large high schools struggled. And Phoenix Union decided many years ago to start to innovate in small schools. In fact, Senator Boyer had a chance. I know you've been to Franklin Police and Fire many times. Phoenix Union has been aggressively developing a portfolio of schools. We launched a police and fire high school, have a bioscience high school, launched a computer coding academy, launched a gifted and talented academy. We run the only Montessori high school in the state of Arizona. And so we've been aggressively growing this portfolio. But as we've done so, we continue to run into issues around innovation, and we continue to run into issues around statute and policy. One of them certainly is seat time. We've shared this publicly many times that I'm going to give you an example of the Phoenix Coding Academy. Phoenix Coding Academy is a school that we've promised to the community would produce the greatest coders and programmers out of high school that our state has ever seen. Yet in order to do so, our kids, based on the current policy that exists, have to spend just as much time in English as they do computer coding. And I'm an English major. I can say that really proudly. We believe there's a way to weave in coding and literature at the same time and to really rethink what that curriculum could look like. But unfortunately, how seat time, just to get on this one in particular, calls for us to build a bell schedule. It's 180 hours of this, 180 hours of this in very set ways. And what we want to do is innovate and start to weave a lot of our curriculum. And so what you'll find at the Coding Academy and at Bioscience and at Montessori and at our Gifted and Talented Academy is that really candidly, the bell schedule that we have to produce isn't always the one that we follow every day. The only way to innovate is to bend the rules that currently exist so that if our kids need to spend all day coding, that they can spend all day coding. It might mean that later in the semester they spend all day doing an English literature project. But we need the flexibility inside the Bell schedule to do so. That's one great example. Another example that we've run into, one more Bell schedule, then I'll get to a different one. Another example is we also, although we have many A and B schools and are very successful, we have some struggling campuses. And one of our D schools, of which we just have a couple, no F schools, came to us and said, we want to rethink we want to shift the paradigm at our high school. It's a large comprehensive high school. We heard Representative Udall talk about the factory model that exists where we send kids to school 50 minutes, take a break, 50 minutes, take a break. And they came to us and said, we want to completely rethink how we do our high school. And they submitted to us a new plan. We took that plan, we sent it to ADE, and it got denied. And that was a seat time issue, that we wanted to try block schedules, we wanted to try rotational schedules, and it didn't fit. And so our one school that we spent all year building a new innovative model actually was denied. And so that's just another great example that it's not just about how do you make small, new, exciting school concepts work. It's about how do you take old systems and old schools that need to be redesigned. I'll give you one other example, non-seat time, is Phoenix Union and many other systems across Arizona are high school systems and K-8 systems, and we try to partner. And many of our elementary school districts have approached us and said, wouldn't it be great to launch a 612 high school or a 712 high school? Well, right now, high school districts aren't able to share students with elementary school districts. And wouldn't it be amazing if Phoenix Union partnered with one of our elementary school districts to launch a really innovative cross-district 712 or 612 school? Unfortunately, right now, as policy exists, we don't think that's possible. And so those are just three really concrete examples. I think a few other thoughts just in general that I've heard a lot of questions over the last couple of months of who would qualify and how many would qualify. And I think what we've learned in innovation is start small, that I don't think we would need to suddenly adopt 100 or 200 or 300 schools across the state, that maybe we would be wise to start small, accept a few systems that are willing to try. And then what that, I believe, would do is two things, that when you start to receive the applications, you start to see trends really quickly. Maybe it's 90% a seat time problem. Then that would lead us to start talking about policy change and seat time. So I think we could use these trends to start to get us to policy change and to really think about legislation that would really improve schools. And I think that's a really important part. Then I think the second is I envision a time and space where all the schools that applied, all the districts that applied could come together and start to share innovation across the state. Where a district like Phoenix Union might find itself in a room with a school in Yuma and in Flagstaff saying, hey, you want to think differently, we want to think differently, maybe together we can innovate even more. And so I think it's even bigger than just the waiver. I think there's policy implications, and I think there's collaboration implications. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Wow, your presentation was wonderful, and all those different ideas and things of what you've been thinking through and wanting to do. Yes, I think we should be able to have a pilot program or what this bill is proposing. My allergies are killing me tonight.
Mine too.
Sorry. Anyway, it's great what you said. Any questions? Yes, Senator Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Chad, I just want to thank you for coming down and speaking. I liked the bill originally, but again, knowing some of the background of what you've done, the innovation that you've already done, and then now listening to your comments, it's really encouraging to me, because it really does need to be about getting those kids prepped. And sometimes you do have to make changes. You've done that in some of your other schools and have seen great success. I appreciate you coming down and speaking on this bill, because for me, it encourages me even more to let's loose some of the reins and see what can happen when we've got some professionals that are working with those kind of kids that need to have some of those changes. And again, I appreciate your leadership on this subject and this issue, and what you've done I think has been really good. Hopefully we can get other educators too that can help to implement some ideas that can really help ignite those kids and inspire them in their learning endeavors.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Senator Boyer has a comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chad, just a quick question. Can you tell us what the graduation rate is at the Police and Fire Academy?
Yeah, the Police and Fire, Madam Chair, Senator Boyer, the Police and Fire Academy most years has a 100% graduation rate. It's as do a lot of our small schools that have been really pushing innovation across our district. And so what we also find, Senator Boyer and committee, is higher college-going rates, that you would think that a school like Police and Fire is just sending kids straight to workforce, or even a school like Metro Tech High School would just send kids to workforce. And these schools also have our highest college-going rate as well when we try to push the limits of the old educational paradigm.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, Senator Gonzalez.
Madam Chair and Superintendent. So I'm just curious. I've known about some of your innovation in Phoenix Union. I'm wondering if you currently have schools or plans of how many innovations and how many schools, and would they all be the same innovation, or you're trying different things?
Right. Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Senator.
And Senator. Yeah, I think a few. One is we have some large comprehensive campuses that really need to be redesigned and rethought. And we continue to run into a couple of these issues, the challenges that I talked about, the D school. If you haven't heard much about South Mountain High School has been around for almost 70 years, has struggled, has had many great success stories, but has struggled for many years. And over the last couple of years, we broke South Mountain up into 4 separate academies. So it's no longer one large high school. It's the academies at South Mountain. And they have 4 separate academies, but we're running into the same problem that we're excited about that innovation, but it's not the innovation we really want. We could go faster and go farther if we could loosen the reins on a couple of items. So that's one, is this comprehensive campus reform. Second is within schools like coding and bioscience, we would like to use this to get us back to a place where the bell schedules and the minutes that we're submitting are actually aligned with policy, because we're having to bend those rules. And to be honest, proud to do so, because the workforce demands, a different type of workforce. Colleges demand a different type of learner. And then 2 other quick examples for you. This idea of a 7-12 school. We've had many school districts that have come to us. In fact, we've had 5 so far of our 13 feeders that want to start to innovate with us. And then 2 other small schools that I'll talk about. One, we think teacher voice is really important in school design. Often we think that this just has to come from leaders in the community. Our teachers are leaders too, and our teachers have amazing ideas. And we've had teachers come to us and say, we should launch a teachers academy at the high school level. If we can launch a coding academy and an engineering academy, why don't we launch a teachers academy that really rethinks what the future of teaching looks like? And so that's a school that we believe would be a school of innovation as we launch and develop that with our teaching staff. And then another one that's maybe a little conceptual is this idea. It's a school. We have a small group working on a design called PXU City. Phoenix Union is PXU City that says maybe the city could be a classroom, not just a campus. And could we create a school where kids are embedded in careers right away? To do internships in businesses and at the legislature, where they don't have to check into school every day, that they could get out into the community and use the classroom and use business and industry actually as their places of learning. And so that just gives you a flavor of the type of innovation, but so long as we're stuck in a box, it'll be challenging to really think bigger. Hopefully that answers your question.
That's great. Hey, members, we kind of need to be moving along, and we're going to be here till midnight. We're only on the 2nd bill. But Senator,
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I just have one question. How did you pay for all of this? And does your district usually pass the bond issues and overrides?
Madam Chair
Yes,
and
please.
Senator, we've asked for all this innovation. Yes, we pass bonds and overrides. But we actually think that innovation, you asked the question about appropriations, we think innovation can happen within the dollars that exist within a school. Now, will we as educators continue to say that education needs to be funded? Absolutely. But innovation doesn't have to cost money. Right? Innovation doesn't have to come from this place of new funding. And I think that's part of the challenge, that I think that schools should always be challenged to innovate within the resources that they have. And at this point, we at least, as we've talked about this bill, don't believe it's about new money. It's about rethinking the money that you have by expanding that box of innovation.
Good point. Thank you very much. All right, thank you very much for being here. Let's
Madam
move
Chair,
on.
thank
We
you.
have one last person that wishes to speak.
Next up, Brad Galbraith.
And Brad, I hate to tell you if you could keep your about 2 minutes, I'd appreciate it.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'd be happy to just add an exclamation point to Dr. Geston's presentation. For the record, my name is Brad Galbraith with the Foundation for Excellence in Education in Action. We just want to voice our support for this legislation and just highlight maybe 2 points. One is that this really creates a space for individual schools to identify the needs of their communities and innovate in a way that empowers their communities. You heard great examples from Phoenix Union of how that can look when communities come together and innovate for the benefit of their children. The second piece that I want to highlight is that this bill really creates a feedback loop for you all. When we talk about what the future, what the next generation of education looks like in Arizona, that this provides a feedback loop for you to identify how are schools innovating now, what are the waivers that are in the way, and helps you create a new system of what the future of education looks like. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the gentleman? Thank you for being here and participating. All right, members, is there any further discussion? This has been a great discussion, though. I've really enjoyed it. And let's go ahead and move the amendment and then the bill, the amendment and then the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that House Bill 2448 receive a due pass recommendation, and I move that the 9-line amendment dated March 2nd, 2020 at 2:57 p.m. in Senator Pace's name be adopted.
All right, you've heard the motion on the amendment. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. Do have it so ordered. Now the bill is amended.
I move that House Bill 2448 as amended receive a due pass recommendation.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, let's call for the vote.
Senator Burrell. Aye. Senator Brophy-McKee. Senator D'Alessandro.
Madam Chair, may I explain my vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I guess I wish I lived in a world where districts would pass overrides and bond issues. Many of my school districts rarely or never pass them. So I'm still concerned with equity. I think this is the bill that I've been most torn on of any that we've seen in committee. I expressed my concern about appropriation. If this continues to grow, one full-time equivalency doesn't cut it if it grows. So I would ask for kind of an automatic escalation. I could see the sponsor back there. I'm going to probably surprise some people. I'm going to vote yes for this now, but I have serious concerns, and I hope that there would be a floor amendment, because I'm still concerned about the equity issue. TUSD never passes their override or bond issue. Even my common school, I know this is a high school innovation, but my common school, my K-8, often doesn't. And other districts, we have media. I'm going to vote yes, but I reserve the right to change my vote on the floor if these issues aren't met. Thank you.
Please.
Thank you. I like innovation, and I'd like to see more innovation in our schools. I just, as my colleague, Senator D'Alessandro just explained, I think there's some concern of inequities. My district serves I represent TOSD, Sunnyside, and 5 districts in my district, as well as flowing wells, and it's difficult for some of those districts also to pass override and to pay for these, and I also need to be assured that the department has enough staff to be able to handle this without being a burden. So I want to study this more, so at this time I'm going to vote no on it, and hopefully I can vote yes on the floor when this comes to the floor. Thank you.
Aye.
Madam Chair, may I briefly explain my vote?
Yes, please.
Thank you. In the interest of time, I will be quick. This is the most exciting bill on this education committee that I've come across. It empowers teachers and educators, superintendents, school districts better than almost everything that we've ran through here this year. It puts and gives creativity and that flexibility in the hands of those who want it to better the lives of our children. I've heard 100 teachers come up and tell me all different things that they're trying to fight for, and every single one wants control to improve the lives of the children that they teach. Have flexibility in their classroom. Teach directly for a student. We have this wonderful plan, and I am so grateful to be part of it and have the ability to run an amendment to make it even better. I thank the sponsor very sincerely and do vote aye.
Madam Chair, may I explain my vote?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also have a concern about the burden this might put on the Department of Education. And if we're going to allow for innovation, innovation is a great thing. We should be encouraging it all the time. But if we are going to allow for it and have our department support those efforts, we have to give them the resources to be able to support that. Otherwise, we're just setting them up to fail again. And that's not what we should be doing as a legislature. So we heard today that one district would submit about 6 innovation plans for 6 different schools because this would be a site-based situation. Now, again, I like this idea, but if this is just one district with 6 plans, we don't know how many other districts are going to be submitting plans as well. This could be a lot of different districts with a lot of different sites submitting a lot of plans to a department that doesn't have any additional resources to be able to handle this. And if that's the case, given the short time frame for the submission of the plans, a review of the plans, and the turnaround of the plans, what are we, and then the fact that these plans are actually fairly detailed and complex, that just, it doesn't set up the department to really be able to effectively review them, evaluate them, and make a decision on them. So I think it sets us up for just a rubber stamping kind of a situation, which at the end of the day doesn't help students. So I think that's something we need to be concerned about. We should look at into the future. I think even the calculation of the ADM if we're going to be exempting seat time and bell schedules, that creates another complication in how we fund our schools that I'm not sure that we are ready to really handle yet. And I think, again, I want to mention that the timing is in this bill is unfortunately unrealistic. And I think that one of the things that I think the sponsor mentioned that I think is really, it kind of got lost in the shuffle throughout today's conversation was the fact that, a lot of schools want to be innovative, and a lot of schools don't realize that they can be innovative already without having to submit a very complicated, complex proposal to the Department of Education in order to do that. If that's the case, we should be encouraging those schools to be innovative now. And maybe for a lot cheaper, we could be just supporting the department in helping those districts learn how to be innovative with what they have now. And if that's the case, we could probably help a lot more kids than these few school districts that are going to have the ability to put forth these plans and then a department that's not going to have the ability to review them. So I think this is problematic. I would like to see it worked on more. I think this would be better as a pilot program because then we could really work out the kinks in this bill. But for now, unfortunately, I'm going to have to vote no.
Aye.
I am just excited about this because, and I can't see why, whenever you allow people to have some freedom, the human creativity and innovation and ingenuity is so amazing. That is our most important resource we have in our country, is what people can do. And when we give them the green light to come up with these new ideas, I think this is just going to open up education like unreal in our state. And I don't believe it's going to take all this more money. I don't. I believe with the money the schools have, they can figure out how to use it in even a better way if they can find shortcuts and ways to bring classes together or ideas together or schools. I mean, I don't know. The sky's the limit. To me, I love freedom. I love when we are able to use it. And if the department, in fact, I think this is going to be popular. And I'm all for giving more money to the department to be able to hire more FTEs to handle this. Good grief. This is just going to be great. And I think in 2 or 3 years, we're going to say, this has really changed, starting to change education by allowing this kind of new thinking. And it's what we need. And so I absolutely vote aye.
6 ayes, 2 nays, and 1 not voting.
By your vote of 6 ayes, 2 nays, and 1 not voting, you have given House Bill 2448 as amended a do pass recommendation. Okay, members, let's see if we can do House Bill 2109 in a lesser time. Jeffrey.
Madam Chair and members, House Bill 2109 establishes uniform posting requirements for an election notification by requiring an election notice to be posted at least 90 days before a governing board vote to form a unified district, as well as an election called for by voters or the governing board. Additionally, the bill increases posting requirements from at least 25 days to 90 days prior to an election to determine district consolidation. Finally, HB 2109 increases the time frame from 60 days to 120 days for the county superintendent to call a special election for district unification. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jeffrey? Seeing none, thank you. Representative Udall, welcome again.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Again, Representative Udall, LD 25. This is really a cleanup bill. When they've tried to do consolidations and unifications in the past, a lot of times they've run into lawsuits, and it's been lawsuit after lawsuit when they try and do these. And part of the reason is because the statute is not clear in several places. And so this is an attempt to clean some of it up on when the notification is and some different things. We worked with Superintendent Tim Carter, who has been through some consolidations in some of these legal battles, and got his advice on what, if he could clean it up, what we would do. He thinks we should completely blow it up and start over, which we are talking about doing. But at this point, these were the things that he pinpointed as needing to be fixed immediately. And so that's what we're attempting to do.
Thank you, Representative Udall. And I agree, because I've been working on a consolidation bill, yes. And we do need to go in there and make it a lot more streamlined and simpler. And yes, so thank you very much for this. And there's nobody that wishes to speak. So members, do you have any questions for the representative about this?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
to note that there's also no one signed in opposed.
Correct. Thank you for pointing that out. That was everybody's for this. So if there isn't, hey, let's go ahead and move the bill. And I've lost my vice chair. Would you please move it, Senator Payne?
Madam Chair, I move that House Bill 2109 receive a due pass recommendation.
Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Senator Borelli.
Aye.
Senator Brocky, Senator D'Alessandro.
Aye.
Senator Gonzalez. Aye. Senator Gray.
Aye.
Senator Payne.
Aye.
Senator Quezada.
Aye.
Senator Boyer.
Let's pause a minute and see if he's out there. I don't know. We've got other committees going on, and I don't know if the House has started. Here he comes. Okay. We're on the unification, consolidation. Okay.
Senator Boyer.
Aye.
Senator Allen.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 not voting.
By your votes of 6 ayes, 0 nays. Oh, my goodness. I heard it wrong. 8 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 not voting. You have given House Bill 2109 a due pass recommendation. Thank you. All right, let's move on to House Bill 2110. Jeffrey.
Madam Chair and members, House Bill 2110 subjects a non-certificated person engaging in immoral or unprofessional conduct to disciplinary action from the State Board of Education. It permanently prohibits school districts and charters from hiring a non-certificated person as determined by SBE who is convicted of specified crimes, and allows ADE to share investigative information and records about a non-certificated person or certificated person to schools or districts, third-party entities, or agencies interacting with the person in question. Before hiring an applicant, HB 2110 requires districts and charters to search the Education Information System and to submit a listing of persons employed at a school to ADE. Districts and charters are prohibited from hiring a person with a suspended, surrendered, or revoked certificate unless their certificate is reinstated by SBE. A non-certificated person is also prohibited from being hired as determined by SBE. Regarding reporting requirements, the bill subjects school superintendents, administrators, and non-certificated persons to the same existing mandatory reporting requirements if there is a reasonable suspicion or allegation that a non-certificated person engaged in immoral or unprofessional conduct. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jeffrey? All right, thank you. Representative Udall.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Representative Michelle Udall, LD 25. If it feels like this is Groundhog's Day, it's because you've heard this bill before recently. It's the same as the Senate bill, but after it passed the Senate floor, we found a couple technical errors. I say we as if I had anything to do with it. Some technical corrections were found. We did the amendment on the House side, so this is just the House version of the bill coming over to be finished, but it was just a couple references in section that had to be corrected.
Okay, Senator Borelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, so is Groundhog Day, did it pass before?
Madam Chair, Senator Borelli, it did.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'd like to hear from Catcher Baden. Thank you, Catcher, for being here today. Arizona State Board of Education.
Madam Chair and members, for the record, Catcher Baden with the State Board of Education. Thank you for having me. And I'm just going to do a Groundhog's Day of Representative Udall's Groundhog Day and just repeat what she said. And you supported the Senate version of this one. Unfortunately, we couldn't get it swapped because of just the timing of things. So we hope that you support this version of it as we almost get it to the finish line. So.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Baden? Seeing none? All right. Is there anybody else? Just nope. If necessary? Okay, I don't think it's necessary. All right. So let's go ahead and move the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that House Bill 2110 receive a due pass recommendation.
Thank you. No further discussion. Let's call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. By your vote of 8 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 not voting, you have given House Bill 2110 a due pass recommendation. Thank you, members. Let's go to House Bill 2111. Julia.
Madam Chair and members, House Bill 2111 establishes a 5-year resource and service consolidation grant program administered by the Department of Education to provide monies to county school superintendents to consolidate resources and develop new services for schools, libraries, juvenile detention centers, and jails within their jurisdiction. The bill also establishes grant application and distribution requirements and appropriates $10 million in fiscal year 2021 to ADE to distribute to county school superintendents participating in the program. With that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to take any questions.
All right, any questions for Julia? Seeing none, thank you, Julia. All right. Representative Udall.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Representative Udall, LD 25. This is something I worked on with stakeholders over the interim that I'm really excited about. A lot of times when we can try and consolidate districts, there's all kinds of fights, as I'm sure you're aware. And a lot of times it doesn't end up working out. So this is an attempt to consolidate some of the resources at the county level without actually having to consolidate the districts. So again, speaking of Superintendent Tim Carter, he worked with us very closely. What they've done in Yavapai is they provide a lot of programs at the county superintendent of public instruction level. For example, their substitute teaching list is a county-wide list. Rather than each school district having their own, they share one. And they use it on a fee-for-service basis. They've done that with some special ed things. They've done it with some central transportation stuff. I believe they've done it with some procurement things. There are a whole list of things that can be resources that can be consolidated at the county level that then districts and charters can use on a fee-for-service basis. The problem with expanding that into other counties is there are some startup costs, and the superintendent of public instruction at each county is reliant on their Board of Supervisors for funding. So if they're not willing to help with the startup costs, they have no other source of funding it. This is a grant program to help them start those programs. And so they would be required to survey the schools that they serve and find out what the needs are, and then based on those needs, develop some consolidated resources that districts and charters can use on a fee-for-service basis. The programs have to be self-sufficient within 5 years. So it gives them that startup money so that they can provide the resources and get going. And then over time, it will save money. But in the startup, it's going to cost something. And so that's what the grant is for.
All right, very good. This is interesting. Any discussion, members? Any questions? There's nobody that wishes to speak, so if there's not any further discussion, I guess we'll move the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that House Bill 2111 receive a due pass recommendation.
Thank you. Let's call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Madam Chair, briefly explain the vote?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank the sponsor for working on this issue. I think this is an innovative way to deal with the consolidation issues that always come up, especially in some of our smaller and rural school districts. Rather than kind of forcing the issue of unification consolidation, we allow for the districts to come together and come to a compromise and find out the ways that they can save that money. And you answered the question that I had, the one question I had about the appropriation. I was wondering what that money was for. So thank you for answering that. It sounds like a great idea. I vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. By your vote of 8 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 not voting, you have given House Bill 2111 a due pass recommendation. Thank you so much, Representative Udall. All right, let's move to 2121. Julia.
Madam Chair and members, House Bill 2121 establishes uniform requirements for arguments in informational or publicity pamphlets prepared for bond, override, or primary elections, including the following. Arguments must include a sworn statement by the submitting party. Names of submitting parties must be included in the pamphlet. Persons signing the argument must also provide identifying information that may not be included in the pamphlet, other than their city, town, and state of residence, and a non-compliant argument may not be included in the pamphlet. Additionally, House Bill 2121 requires a sworn statement be notarized if submitted by an individual for a bond or override election. And with that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay, any questions for Julia on this bill? Thank you very much. I don't see Representative Kavanaugh here.
I think he's still on the floor.
They're still on the
Action
floor.
on the floor.
Okay. All right, let's see. Can anybody speak to this bill? For Representative Kavanaugh. If not, if there's not any questions by anybody, let's just move the bill. Okay?
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Madam Chair. I move that House Bill 2121 receive a due pass recommendation.
Thank you. Let's vote the bill.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. By your vote of 8 ayes, 0 nay, and 1 not voting, you have given House Bill 2121 a due pass recommendation. We're on a roll, guys. This is great. House Bill 2287. You think I jinxed it then? No, I didn't. This is going to go great. Jeffrey.
Madam Chair and members, House Bill 2287 is an emergency measure that continues to allow a common school district to calculate its budget and equalization assistance until a high school is approved and built for the unified school district. The common school district must be outside the boundaries of the high school district, elected to become a part of a unified district, yet has not constructed a high school within 10 years of the election. Additionally, after the new high school begins operating in the unified school district, the district can continue to calculate its budget and equalization assistance for up to 5 years. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Jeffrey? Jeffrey, do you remember I know we have a situation in Representative Osborne's district where they have been saving for quite a while to build their high school, and I think they're ready to do that. And so we just need some changes in the statutes for this bill to allow this, right?
Correct. Madam Chair and members, yes, in the House, Representative Osborne said this bill is for the small Natterburg Unified School District, which has 2 elementary schools. This was approved several times in 2007, 2010, 2016, and this bill is attempting to continue that allowance until June 30th, until further notice, right now the current statute extended this time frame to June 30th, 2020, and this attempts to extend that time frame to allow them to continue to build the high school.
All right, wonderful. And we have the superintendent of Nogberg? Nadaberg.
Yes.
Welcome, and thank you for sticking this out.
Thank you so much, Madam Chairwoman Allen and Vice Chairman Boyer. My name is Dr. Auspicia Angelo, and I am the superintendent at Nadaberg Unified School District number 81. I've been here since July 1st, and we did indeed pass our bond. So our constituents have voted now to support a high school. And we are in the process of renovating one of our buildings. We've been working with the SFB, and we have a number for that enrollment that will trigger our new facility. So some information for you is that without the extension of this bill, we will not be able to pay the full tuition for the students to continue on at Wickenburg and Dicer as they are now. So our latest count, we have 386 high school students, and it is our Representative Osborne. It is our ask of you to support this House Bill 2287 with the emergency clause in order to continue under the current status and allow us to tuition our high school students to Dicer and Wickenburg until we meet the criteria for our school. And the current extension expires June 30th, 2020, and we are requesting for that emergency clause to extend it. The developments in our area have once again resumed, and I've been working with the City of Surprise and developers because our area is really starting to boom, and all that construction is coming back that had stalled out in the recession. So today I'm here to ask you to please give us the latitude that we need to continue paying for these students as we experience this extensive growth over the next few years that will allow us to have our new school funded. And we are in the process of working on a very innovative program ourselves, and I think that we will be requesting to be an innovation school regarding Representative Udall's bill. So please give us this extension so that we can continue to allow those high school students that are in our district to be educated while we create an innovative high school for our future students. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Any questions for the superintendent? No. All right. Representative Osborne, welcome.
Thank you. Madam Chair,
yes.
if we allow her to speak, she could jinx it.
No, she won't.
I will just nicely say thank you for hearing our bill and what she said. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yes, one question first.
And I would like to compliment your school board because one of your members reached out to me over the summer. So we know this is life and death for your district.
It is. Thank you so much. And
thank you, Senator.
Also, I do, Madam Chairwoman and Senator, I do empathize with the situation of not being able to pass a bond. It was a big accomplishment and a vote of confidence from our community. Thank you.
Yes, it was. Thank you. All right, any other comments by our members? All right, I think we're through discussing this, members. So let's call for, let's move the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that House Bill 2287 receive a due pass recommendation.
All right, let's call for the vote.
Madam Chair, may I explain the vote? Thank you, Madam Chair, and Representative Osborne. Take note that brevity works, and that I vote aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Brevity.
Aye.
That's brevity.
Aye.
Yeah.
By your vote of 9 ayes, 0 nays, and 0 not voting, you've given House Bill 2287 a due pass recommendation.
Thank you, Senators.
Thank you. Members, you were wonderful, and, oh, no, we're done. Yeah, we're done. Thank you to everybody for your hard work.